can't pick all these books up. I can do this. I can totally do this. Okay, got it. I did it. Kind of. There we go. Hello, welcome back to another video on my channel. How are you? I'm good. I'm kind of good. I'm doing better, okay? This morning I had to do an assignment for school, and actually no, not just this morning, the past week, and it has been rough. It has been rough, but I'm finally done. I can finally film this video. And this week's video is gonna be, as you already saw from the thumbnail and the title, I'm gonna tell you about the books that have made me cry. And I'm gonna tell you about them in the order of least to most embarrassing, because some of these books that have made me cry shouldn't have made me cry. Like, the fact that they made me cry is embarrassing. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sharing it on the internet, so obviously I'm not that embarrassed. Like, I don't really care all too much, but it's kind of funny. I have videos of myself crying to some of these books, so if I have those, I'll insert them when I talk about it, but I don't have that for all the books. I mean, this is just kind of like, I'm not necessarily recommending these books. Some of them I really love, some of them I didn't rate as highly. I'm just like listing them off because they made me cry. So if you're looking for a book that make you cry as well, some of these could work. Some of these could definitely work. Some of them are like in a series, so it might be difficult. You have to take a while to get to them, but the ones in the series, I'm telling you, it's a payoff. Like, if you want a good sob with like actual emotional investment, the series are worth it because you just are so attached, or at least for me, I was so attached that you feel what the characters are feeling, and the cry that comes out of it is so cathartic. Take these as recommendations, don't take them as recommendations, take it just as a list. I don't mind, whatever you prefer. So you do that, I'm gonna tell you about which books made me cry. Let us get started. The first book in this list, I have 8 books. Well, it's more than 8 books, but some of them I've grouped together because they're like in a series or whatever. So anywhoosies, the first book that has made me cry, I'm not even like a little bit embarrassed to admit this, because honestly, if you didn't cry at this book, you're a psychopath. The Fault in Our Stars. The Fault in Our Stars. That is a confusing cover of which way is the right way. Anyway, this book made me ugly sob, ugly cry. I mean, who didn't ugly cry at this book? I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about this because who did not ugly cry at this book? I feel like everybody ugly cried at this. Everybody knows what this is about. It's majorly sad, and I already knew what was gonna happen when I read this. Like, I watched the movie already before I got into reading, so I've already watched the movie for this, so I knew exactly what's gonna happen, and you better believe I still bawled my eyes out. And that's the first one. Not embarrassing, very common. I feel like everybody cries at this. If you want to have a good cry and you like young adult. The next one is kind of in the same category, Me Before You. It's the same era, it's the same category, it's the same as The Fault in Your Stars. Like, I've seen the movie, made me sob. Book, absolutely lost it. I honestly think the books are worse in like how much you cry, because in a movie you only have like 2 hours to get attached, and yeah, it's still super sad and it makes me cry. But this, after you read it a book, and this is quite a long book, I cried. I cried so much. Hello guys, it's editing Sabrina. I'm at work, but there's no customers. So I'm just coming in here because I did a really terrible job explaining what any of the books were. I think for The Fault in Our Stars, that was fine because I genuinely do believe everybody knows what that book is about. And I think most people would have heard of Me Before You or would have at least seen the movie. But anyway, I'm gonna pop in here with this terrible camera quality to just fill you in a little bit about what these books are about in case you do want to give them a shot, because I literally give no explanation at any point in this video. So anyway, Me Before You is a story about a man who is a quadriplegic. Anyway, he's paralyzed from the neck down, so he can't do anything for himself. So his family hires full-time care for him, and it's this lovely lady. She lives in their village. She's like the bubbliest, cutest girl ever. Like, she's super quirky. Like that era, that type of quirky, but it's good. And she takes care of him, and they like start to form a bond because he's really grumpy at first, and then they start to get to know each other and all that, and then the ending happens. I'm not gonna tell you what it is because I would spoil it, but it's really sad. So if you don't know what the ending is, don't watch the movie, read the book. That's the best synopsis I could give without giving too much away. That one, it'll take you out. It's also romance. So both of them, though, just like as a trigger warning, says they deal with some type of medical issues, which is why they're sad. So if that's not the type of sad you're looking for, don't read these. Yeah, I'm also not like super embarrassed about this next one that made me cry, and everybody knows I love this book. Actually, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on YouTube because I read this before I started my channel, but that's Normal People by Sally Rooney. I'm actually currently giving this book a reread, annotating it. I got a secondhand copy, which I'm really happy about. I'm annotating it because this book is a piece of art. Again, a very popular book that I think everybody on BookTube has already read. But in case you haven't, Normal People follows the relationship ish friendship relationship between Marianne and Connell in Ireland. You just kind of get to watch them grow together. It's a super character-based book. Like, there's basically no plot. So yeah, but it's beautifully written, which is the main idea of it, and the way that she's able to portray people's thoughts in this book is very, in my opinion, unique. I don't think it's done like this in other books, and it's like new. Like, I've never seen anyone describe thoughts this way, so it's a good one, but I think you've already read it. The ending makes me cry each time. I've read this book once, but I've read the ending several times. Like, I've just gone back and read it again, but I think this one is a little bit more subjective. I don't often hear that people cry from this book. I think I mainly cried because the situation was like very relatable for me, and not in a romantic way though. Does that make sense? It was very relatable, but platonic version. So take that information how you will. Again, it's such good writing. You get so attached to the characters, and then something happens and it's gut-wrenching. And I read this book first, and then I watched Normal People, the series or whatever that's called, like the TV show, and I cried again. I cried at that too. I'm expecting that when I reread this, I will cry again. Okay, now we're getting in the territory where I'm getting a little bit more embarrassed by the fact that I cried about these books. The next book that made me cry is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. If you watched my Assassin's Blade reading vlog, you'd already know this, but something happens in that book. Something happens to a character, and I didn't see it coming. I did not see it coming. I normally am pretty good at understanding that something's gonna happen. The Assassin's Blade, for anybody who doesn't know, it's a book of like 5 novellas that are a prologue to the whole series. So I was not expecting some major emotional moments to happen, because usually those are reserved for the end of series, but no, not with Miss Maas. She put the most gut-wrenching emotional scene in the first book. It took me out, mainly because it was just so unexpected. This is the mood right now. I've literally just finished Assassin's Blade. I could cry. Honestly, if a book can make me cry, that's how you know that the author did something right. Like, they got you hooked. I mean, it's not a good feeling because I was really upset, but at the same time, it is a good feeling because you know it's a good book, and a good book is always a nice feeling. It's hard to talk about this without spoiling what the books are about. So yeah, but something really tragic happens in this book. Something happens to a character which really affects another character. I cried for both of them. Yeah, it was painful. Number 5 that also made me cry, that I'm a little bit embarrassed about, is Fourth Wing. Again, I have a reading vlog for this. I think there's a section in it where I cry about this, and it's a spoiler reading vlog, so the section says what I cried about, so if you're interested, go watch that video. I got so attached to the characters, and I just didn't see it coming. People don't usually do things like this. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Somebody died, okay? Somebody died. And I feel like everybody's read Fourth Wing, and also, if you haven't, somebody dies, okay? Okay, I'll put a little spoiler thing on the screen before so you can skip past that I just said that if you don't want to know. Anyway, somebody freaking dies. I wasn't expecting them to die. Who kills off their characters in the first book? Shooketh to my core. It was the middle of the night and I cried, but it wasn't an ugly sob. I just had tears running down my face. The next book that made me cry, again, Miss Maas did it, Akawar. The reason this is so high on my list of embarrassment isn't because I'm actually that embarrassed that I cried about this book. There's something that happens in this book that I think, honestly, every person who gets to this book in the Akatar series will cry or be very upset. Something happens, there's a scene. If you're a fan of this series, it will kill you. Not to be dramatic, but it's literally the worst thing that could ever happen in a book. The reason I have it this high on the list is because this wasn't just a cry. I didn't just have a tear. I sobbed. I was screaming, crying in my bed. I was devastated. I hope I can find the video because I'm pretty sure I took one. I really hope I can find it. It wasn't cute. I was snot dripping down my face, hiccuping. But yeah, the amount that I cried at this was embarrassing. But at the same time, I think any girl or anyone who reads the Akatar series will agree that what happened in this book, you can't read that and not cry. You straight up just can't. You can't. You just can't. Sorry. Okay, 7. I'm actually very embarrassed that I cried about these books. Actually, no, that's a lie. I'm not that embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed. I talked about this series before. That is these 2. Actually, no, it's the 3rd one as well, but I don't own the 3rd one. Crave and Crush by Tracy Wolff. Also, Covet. Was that the 3rd one? Back again to explain another book that's not as popular as the other ones. Crave is a series about a girl. Her parents die, as happens in every book, and she gets sent to boarding school with a bunch of supernatural creatures, and stuff ensues. But it's really good. Actually, no, you'll see what I have to say about it. The first couple books are really good. It gets bad after, but it's super interesting. It has like all the supernatural stuff you can think of, and it's YA, and it's really fun. I don't know, the first 3 books in this series also made me cry. Again, it's when you get so attached to the characters and then something happens to them, and it takes me out each and every time. I don't think I filmed myself crying to this one, but again, ugly freaking sobs. And it's hard to get me to be like that dramatic. Okay, though, that's a lie. I'm very dramatic, but I mean, like, I've read now like almost 200 books, and I have a list of 9 books that have made me cry. These make me sob. If you want to have a good YA fantasy that'll make you cry, I would say read the Crave series, but I would say stop at book 3 and just pretend the rest doesn't exist, because after that it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And also, the later books didn't make me cry. Even when sad things happened, I no longer cared about the characters because I was just annoyed. It didn't really hit the same anymore. But the first couple ones, super good if you are looking for a YA fantasy that'll really get you going. Number 8. I am embarrassed that this made me cry, I will admit. I recently read this. I have a reading vlog coming out actually where I read this, which I think will be the next video. The book that is Magnolia Parks. I also think this book is super popular, but just in case, Magnolia Parks is about BJ and Magnolia, and they're from London. Actually, I don't know if they're from London, but it's set in London. They're super rich socialites, and you just kind of follow their life. And it's drama. It's drama. There's big drama. So, yeah, and it's super toxic and very entertaining. One might think, how can this make you cry? It's a romance. How can that make you cry? I don't know, okay? I don't know. The way that this book ends should be criminal. The way that this book ends is choosing violence. She said, screw you and screw you too, and if you're gonna read my book, you're gonna be freaking sad about it. That's what happened with this one. I literally walked upstairs after I read this to my dad, and I was like, you won't believe what happened, and I cried. I didn't cry as much as this book as the ones I've previously mentioned. Like, there wasn't as much of tears, but it's more embarrassing because of what I cried about. Like, in these other books, it's been like something really sad happens to a character, or somebody passes away, or something tragic happens. This isn't like that. I can't say what it is because it spoils the book, but it's not that. It's sad what happens, but it's for the best almost, in a way. Like, what happens is for the best, but you don't want it to happen. Anyway, I've only read this one. There's more to come in the Magnolia Park series, so maybe those will also make me cry. Now, for the last book that made me cry, this one is genuinely embarrassing because I cried at The Deal by Elle Kennedy. The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Hockey romance made me sob my eyes out. Book, there's something that happens in the second to last chapter-ish, like very close to the end of the book, and I thought it wasn't gonna get resolved because of how close to the end of the book it was. Not even that sad. Why am I bawling my eyes out right now? What? Look, listen, it's a romance book, okay? People, what happens in romance book? I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to spoil it, but everybody knows what happens at the end of romance books, okay? And it looked like that wasn't gonna happen. And I was like, how can you write an entire romance book and then not have that final romance thing happen? I was really getting nervous that it wasn't gonna happen, and they had a final act conflict. It wasn't even a third act conflict. It was like a last 2 pages conflict. So I don't really have much to say about why I cried about it. I just did, okay? I didn't cry in any of the other books. I can acknowledge that it's not that deep. It's a hockey romance, but maybe I was hormonal. I don't know. Those are the 9 books that have made me cry. Unite with me in the crying about books club and comment down below if any of these books also made you cry. Try to keep it spoiler free. If you want to see this video again, but where I actually tell you what scenes made me cry, so like a spoiler version, then comment that down below. I didn't want to do that in this video because then it's not very like watcher friendly, because nobody's gonna have read the exact same books that I've read. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.